In the previous video, the chief prosecutor managed to get Hyun-soo to come to him and then drove off, taking him out of the prosecutor's building. And Ji-wook got his job as a prosecutor back, which makes him very happy. I'm Nina, and in today's recap we'll see Suspicious Partner. However, he soon has to contain this moment, because Yoo-young called him to tell him that Hyun-soo had confessed to some crimes, and Ji-wook, knowing Moo-young, knows that if he has heard about his son, he will act. Ji-wook becomes certain that Moo-young will do something when the protagonist tells him that the man apologized to her earlier, so together, the two go to the prosecutor's office. On the way, Yoo-young warns them that Moo-young has left with his vehicle, and as Hyun-soo has disappeared, it's clear that you've picked up the man. Without knowing where they've gone, Bong-hee suggests that the men are in his old apartment, the place where Hee-jun lost his life. In the next scene, we see what's happening there, and Moo-young is taking his anger out on Hyun-soo, but the culprit says that it's all the master's fault, because if years ago he hadn't let the boys who did that to the girl Hyun-soo liked get away with it, today the man wouldn't have sought revenge. Hyun-soo adds that it was even fair what happened to Hee-jun, so Moo-young knows how he felt when the girl took her own life after seeing the boys go free. When Ji-wook and the protagonist arrived on the scene, Moo-young was alone in the apartment, so the woman stayed with him while he went after Hyun-soo. As soon as Ji-wook catches up with him in front of the building, they start a fight that only ends with the help of Bong-hee, who arrives and knocks Hyun-soo to the ground. The authorities soon arrive and Moo-young and Hyun-soo are arrested. Later, Bong-hee decides to talk to Ji-wook and apologize for the way he acted when he found out about his father's affair involving the man's family, so the two end up making up. Over the next few days, Ji-wook begins his work as a prosecutor and Eun-ho follows in her friend's footsteps, returning to work with him as in the old days. However, the group still meets for part of the day at Ji-wook's home office, as the lawyers are still working there, and Yoo-young joins them to analyze how they can get more evidence to incriminate Hyun-soo of all his crimes. The prosecutor for Hyun-soo's case is now Ji-wook. The protagonist forces herself to go to Moo-young, who is in prison, to ask him about what really happened in the case of the girl Hyun-soo knew, since he was the prosecutor who cleared the boys at the time. He said that 7 boys had forced her to do it, so she had brought each of them to justice, but when the result later came out that they were innocent of the crime, the boys' parents accused the girl of trying to end their lives, so she, who was already suffering, decided to take her own life. That's when Hyun-soo decided that he would avenge her death by punishing the boys. With this information, Ji-wook decided that he would accuse Hyun-soo of having participated with the boys in the crime, as this would be a great offense for him, and there is a way for the prosecutor to do this, since the girl's mother recognized Hyun-soo as being involved. Ji-wook's plan is to push Hyun-soo to the extreme and pray in fact, that he will release evidence against himself in court that the prosecutor can use to incriminate him for the rest. And that's what happens. Hyun-soo ends up getting so angry that he tells the story as if he had been there on the day, and in the end reveals where Chan-ho's body is, which was still missing, along with the other evidence that incriminates him in the crimes. Hyun-soo is found guilty by the judge on all charges. He gets a life sentence, and we find out that he didn't actually take part in the act itself. Hyun-soo was in love with the girl and didn't actually commit the act, but stood by as a spectator watching everything, so he felt very guilty for not being able to protect her, and his mind ended up distorting the memory of that day, due to the trauma, which made him believe he wasn't there. The man wanted to punish the 7 boys, so he kept repeating the phrase that 4 had disappeared and 3 would disappear, but he forgot to tell himself, even because he couldn't remember. Now the protagonist will finally be able to clear her name, and to celebrate, she goes to the empty courthouse, where Ji-wook ends up entering, and the two kiss. Over the next few days, they resume their relationship, and the protagonist ended up making good friends with Ji-hae, even staying at her house for another year. Meanwhile, Yoo-young and Eun-hyuk's relationship has become something of a fling, since the woman isn't sure how she feels about him, but the two are always together. In the next scene, a year has passed and we see Ji-wook and the protagonist walking in a park. The two are talking, when suddenly the man stops and puts a ring on Bong-hee's finger, so she asks him if he's proposing, and the man says yes. The protagonist accepts her lover's marriage proposal and says that she will love him forever. What did you think of this season? I hope you enjoyed the summary. Leave your suggestions in the comments and subscribe. If you liked the video, like it and share it to help me. Until next time.